Hello, everybody. Welcome to my office. I'm sorry there has not been many car videos as of late. I've been inspired to use my share screen and talk about some of these law of assumption, law of attraction ideas, by sharing stuff on screen while I talk. I'll be back in the car soon, don't you worry. If you don't know who I am, my name's Tim. I've written multiple books about law of assumption, law of attraction, Neville Goddard, and all that, jazz. I've also worked with many clients over the years, trying to integrate these concepts in a way that actually makes sense. What makes this channel different than virtually any other YouTube channel you're gonna watch when it comes to these ideas is that we actually make sense. If you want one of my books, you can get it for free. Link is in the description. You can also schedule a short 20-minute conversation with me if you want to go deeper. So something that I spoke about kind of in passing last year a fair amount, and that Marvin Daniels, who I sometimes do high-level relationship, AKA SP coaching with, Marvin and I did a video on it that went quite in depth, is that often there's this kind of time frame when you get into these ideas, whether it's the general manifestation ideas or the manifest a specific person idea. There's this time frame where there's like almost a honeymoon phase when you're getting into the stuff and you're very excited. And then gradually that honeymoon phase inevitably ends, right? And you either have integrated these principles in a more deep way, you start doing that, or you become disillusioned because stuff that used to work, perhaps those initial exciting manifestations that you had, they don't keep on appearing. The techniques that initially worked, whether they were SATs or journaling or affirmations or whatever they were, they stop working in the same way. And the explanations you hear don't really make sense, especially on YouTube, like I said. Unfortunately, the former camp where, after the honeymoon phase ends, you start to integrate this stuff more and figure out how it's actually going to work in your life. Like in my case, I realized, man, this ties so much together with the stress management stuff I'm already into and kind of like the far out meditational stuff I'm into. I can utilize that and integrate Neville's teachings in that way, which I wrote about in books like Relax More, Try Less. Most people don't get to integrate stuff in that manner where they make it personal. In other words, they take these really cool ideas that we're all excited about when we first hear them, when we first hear Neville or Joseph Murphy or Joe Dispenza or Abraham Hicks or whoever. We don't actually develop beyond that excitement, right? And even someone today, like modern teachers online, like neuro knowledge, for instance, right? You might be excited by the ideas initially, but then it's about integrating it from there. So I thought I would, because again, Marvin and I made a video about this last year, specifically dealing with relationships. And it's worth revisiting that, not just from a relationship perspective, but also more of just a general manifestation perspective. And why, when you get into these teachings, what initially draws you to them is in all likelihood not going to be enough to sustain you, in figuring out a way to make it so this is a sustainable practice where you enjoy, doing the techniques that actually work for you. You enjoy relaxing more into the embodied, more idealized version that you are already, figuring out a way to do that so it actually makes sense in your life, as opposed to just all this cool esoteric talk, everyone is you pushed out, live in the end, that we can't actually figure out how to utilize and integrate into our life, if that makes sense. So Papa Bear Tim is going to now pull up the share screen again. That's why we are in the office as opposed to the car. Gosh, I missed the car. Yeah, we're going to try to go over this a little bit more with the help of this little map that GPT helps put together. We just phrase this as the two phases of personal change nobody talks about. And again, this is just the kind of conversation that is lacking, obviously, in the law of assumption, law of attraction space. And this is phase one, the honeymoon shift. What it is, generally speaking, and again, this is general, timelines can be a little bit different. Your situation might be a little bit different, but what we see generally speaking, and this is me after being in this space for over a decade and, you know, speaking to hundreds, if not thousands of people about this stuff, is the first 6 to 18 months after you adopt a new spiritual or mindset framework. Okay. That's the honeymoon phase. And also, when you get into a romantic relationship, that's often the honeymoon phase, is not 18 months, but like usually like the first 6 months, right? There's like a ton of excitement. Why it works: novelty ignites hope and dopamine. Belief change feels fresh and exciting. You're suddenly seeing life through a new lens, which alters your behavior and energy. So whether we're getting into a relationship, a new exciting romantic relationship, or just getting into manifestation ideas and realizing that, you know, our imagination creates our own reality, the novelty of this is very exciting. And you get this high, you know, this like, oh my God, I'm going to change my life. And because you have that belief and kind of that faith initially, if you do have that, and many people do not, by the way, but those that do, you know, they feel this high and this excitement. And because they have that high excitement, expectant belief, they often will see demonstrations or manifestations in their world that are very unexpected, surprising, and encouraging, right? Like they might start meeting people that previously they thought they could not meet, or meet that romantic partner, reconnect with that romantic partner, get that job promotion, improve that chronic health issue, or heal that chronic health problem that before seemed unsolvable the last couple of years. What this looks like is manifestations feel easier, your overall mood improves, and small quote unquote miracles happen often. Right? It's very exciting. And it's like, oh my God, all this stuff is real. The secret is real. And this is the, you know, the pom-pom wavers, you know, everyone's excited. And this is a lot of the stuff you see on YouTube is comments and people on Reddit. It's people who are excited. Oh my God, this stuff works. This just happened to me. This is unbelievable. This is the problem that not many people in the community actually discuss. It's unsustainable. This kind of initial excitement honeymoon phase is not sustainable. It's a honeymoon for a reason. It ain't gonna last like the way it is initially in terms of the excitement, right? There's that great Zen saying, I think it's a Jack Kornfield book, after the ecstasy, the laundry. It's kind of like that. And in romantic relationships, it's like that too. Even if you love someone and you seem like you're twin flames and the perfect connection, everybody's kind of quirks and little, you could say, flaws are not going to necessarily come out in the first couple of months. But after 6 months, the cracks start to show a little bit. And that is really where you got to decide which way you're going. So the problem is it's unsustainable to have this kind of honeymoon perspective of these law of assumption, law of attraction principles. The novelty wears off, life stabilizes, and your old undercurrents reassert themselves. The problems you used to have that you've had for most of your adult life, in all likelihood, are not going to totally disappear, at least for 99.9% of us. There might be significant transformation in those first 6 months, but your underlying way of being, those undercurrents from childhood and from when you were a teenager and maybe when you were a younger adult, are still going to be there unless you are directly looking at them and working through them. And that's the kind of stuff that you do not just work through in a couple of months usually. And that is what manifestation advice, when you first find it, is not going to really help you do initially a lot of the time. You're running on excitement, not necessarily on these dramatic inner insights. Those will come later, at least for many of us. So phase 2 is after that 6-month period is kind of worn off. And for some people, again, it's longer than 6 months. And the next, I would say 12 months, so we get to the 18-month mark, is really where, it's the fork in the road. It's where most people will say, this is too hard, I'm not going to fucking do it. Or this doesn't work, or this worked initially, but I can't figure it out. Other people online can seemingly figure it out, but I can't, which is total bullshit, by the way, because online, there's this fantasy that, oh, everybody gets it, because most people commenting are like new and excited. People that are excited are new, generally speaking. And what people understand is that's who's commenting. And then everyone else just fucking disappears because they feel ashamed. Oh, I couldn't get it to work. Other people could. No, the reality is most people can't get it to work. The reality is 90% plus, if not 95% plus, if not 98% plus of people who get into these ideas and have that initial excitement are able to actually integrate it successfully long-term in a way that feels fulfilling to them. Okay, that's the reality. And probably only 1 out of 1,000 are able to integrate it in a way where they constantly have just miraculous things happen by doing sats or affirmations. There's so much more to it than just that for the vast majority of people. So the long-term arc is more what is the quiet ongoing integration after the fireworks fade. Why it's harder? Well, there's no new novelty fuel. You know, you've already skimmed through the big teachers, and maybe this takes longer than 6 months, but you realize that as exciting as a teacher first is when you first encounter them, Neville, Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks, it's not necessarily going to continue to be exciting as you're trying to implement their advice 6 months from now. The deep baseline currents in your body and nervous system don't change overnight. Without guidance, people think they've, quote, lost it or failed. The initial honeymoon phase is marketed as being the normal phase when you get into these ideas. And guys, reality just does not bear this out. If this was a fraction as easy as these online charlatans a lot of the time are claiming it is, you would have a totally different world outside. People would be so much more successful and life would be so much, quote unquote, easier if things were, you know, a tenth as simple as most of these LOA online coaches make it seem like. These folks don't know what they're actually talking about. This stuff, here, get ready for it. This stuff is hard to integrate sustainably. That is why more people don't do it. It's not because there's a secret society or conspiracies against it or any of this other highfalutin horse shit you hear. It's because this stuff is hard to integrate unless you seriously work with it. And that is not a fucking honeymoon. The honeymoon is over. Now, what I'm here to tell you is that it is well worth it to integrate these ideas in whatever way works for you, and that it actually is hugely fulfilling and enjoyable to do that. But it is work. It's just inner work as opposed to outer work. And most people, just to be frank, don't want to do it. So they have the honeymoon phase, they get excited, and they're like, wow, this works, visualization works, you know, I create my own reality. And then they fucking disappear. Hey, how about that person that's, you know, remember that person from last year that manifested that house or manifested that SP, and they were saying, oh my God, my life's gotten so much better, and they just, you know, everything's going their way. Where did they go? Where are they 12 months later? Why aren't they posting anymore? Why don't I hear from them? Because they couldn't overcome that transition from it being exciting and new and a novelty and having initial success to it becoming normal. And normal is where it's at. My channel exists basically for those people who want to make this stuff normal, who are not necessarily into creating miracles all the time, but recognize that the miracle is being alive right now today. And if you live that way, sometimes there will be, you know, seemingly miraculous things that happen and manifestations that happen like that. And they're exciting to hear, but honestly, not that exciting to hear after a while. You learn to expect it in a way. When I hear amazing stories, I'm like, man, oh, that's amazing. That's wild, da, da, da. And yeah, this stuff happens. So please don't say that I'm being, or think that I'm being cynical when I talk about it in this manner. I'm just trying to talk about it in a manner that actually is going to work for most of us. If you're having success just doing sats or just doing robotic affirmations for years on end, fucking you do not need this video. But the truth of the matter is, for the vast majority of people, that's not how it actually works. And it's portrayed online like that is how it works, which is a huge fucking glaring problem. And people can't handle this. They cannot handle the truth. They cannot handle the truth. But the truth will set you free. This is the trap. Most popular teachers don't teach this stage. They keep selling honeymoon tactics and highlight rare exceptions as proof it works forever. And I'm here to call bullshit on that, guys. I want it to work for you forever. And this is how you do it. You integrate it seriously. You make your success be to your own standards, and it becomes quieter and steadier. And you stop listening to all the fucking noise, all the bullshit. A lot of people have been asking me recently, Tim, why did you turn off the comments? I made a video about why I turned off the comments a few months ago. But the short answer is because the comments are absolute horseshit. People don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Why should I listen to the comments? Why should people get confused by the comments? I'm telling you what's likely going to happen to you, and then you're going to fucking listen to some anonymous commenter who's been doing this stuff for 2 months instead of me. Go ahead and do that, or go watch another channel and get lied to. There are very few teachers that I've found in the law of assumption, law of attraction space that teach beyond the honeymoon, that do not often rely on these very miraculous stories as kind of their base to excite you. It's been very interesting. ChatGPT, without any prompting from me, has been very critical of Joseph Murphy recently in my chats with it, because it's basically saying, listen, Murphy, like in The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, which is a great book, and we have dozens of videos about Murphy and The Power of Your Subconscious Mind on this channel. Murphy's giving all these sensational stories and making it seem like that should be your normal result, right? Neville does the same thing. That's just not how this shit works, guys, long term. It's not. Why don't you fucking hear these success stories that you hear about from in these books, for instance? Why don't you hear about these people a year or 5 years or 10 years later? Because if it worked sustainably and could be replicated, you would hear about these things 10 years later. And this person that had manifested all this money and health would now be fucking levitating and healing people all over the world. They don't, because it doesn't work like that. So the 3 teachers I can think of that consistently aren't just giving you this honeymoon, oh, this is going to change your life quickly viewpoint, but actually give you a more sober viewpoint and are using spiritual language. And listen, even Emile Coué, who those of you familiar with this channel know is my favorite teacher, even Coué is guilty of not teaching beyond the honeymoon nearly enough, for sure. It's just, at least he didn't cover it in this spiritual garb and spiritually gaslight you like a lot of these teachers do unintentionally. But the few teachers who don't do that and who basically say, listen, this stuff is difficult and it's absolutely worth doing. The 3 I can think of are Joel Goldsmith, Maxwell Maltz, and H. Emily Cady. And, each one of those teachers, there's a playlist on my channel with many videos on each one of those teachers for that reason. Joel Goldsmith, Maxwell Maltz, H. Emily Cady. They speak to stability, not thrill. They normalize loss, subtraction, and letting go rather than promising endless gain. They acknowledge that peace is often mundane, not blissed out. So, if you want that more sober perspective, those are the teachers I would recommend if you want to be in this LOA space, looking at this stuff. And you can also compare it, like, we did that video, I think last week, about Eugene Genlin and comparing even his approach to Goldsmith. And my gosh, you look at Genlin, and Genlin seems so much more life-affirming than even Goldsmith. So, this is the kind of critical thinking we need to do. Critical thinking is good as long as you utilize it along with the positive imagination. Takeaway. If you're in the honeymoon, enjoy it, but know it's temporary. These first 6 months or 12 months, or maybe even 18 months, but probably like first 6 months, 12 months of your experiences are not going to be your long-term LOA life in all likelihood. If you're past that point, past the honeymoon phase, most of you who've made it this far in the video probably are, stop thinking you failed. You have not failed. You've just moved into the real work, which is living without the constant high, letting your body's wisdom lead you, and dropping the overlay of drama and story into your everyday life. That's where lasting freedom is. And yes, it's quieter. It's also so much more fulfilling for most of us who are serious about this stuff. GBC just said, if you want, I can write a short, savage 1-paragraph version of this. that would crush on YouTube. Not so sure about that, but these points are well worth remembering. I hope that this video was helpful. If you want help, if you have questions, you might have questions after a video like this. I don't have comments on my channel, but I gladly will answer your questions or even provide you a short consultation if you're serious about integrating these tools, because again, I'm telling you, it is worthwhile. Links to contact me are in the description. Until next time, be good. Enjoy.